Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We're going to be discussing Excel tips today to speed up your day. I'm joined by Colin Smith today. He's going to be going through today's presentation. So let's get started.
Good afternoon, Martin. Thank you for having me, and welcome to the webinar on Excel tips. This is just going to be a quick jump around Excel just to give you some short stuff. We're not really going to do a deep dive today, but hopefully you'll get some stuff that maybe just speed up your day and keep you happy. Anyway, just before we start, just need to mention about SMS. SMS, Microsoft Gold Partner, specializing in managed services for mid-market clients and SMEs. We've been established for over 15 years. We've got a portfolio of about 4,500 clients. We're 9001, 2000, 27001 ISO certified, and we provide full 24/7 by support from our UK base. We believe that we're ideal place to offer IT advice to your business, and we're here to help you get the most out of Azure, Microsoft 365 and modern workplace. Right, let's have a quick look.
Okay, Colin. So I've seen this sort of statistics thing with Excel. So how can you get more from statistics? I believe you can see this at the bottom in the status bar at the bottom. How would we go about doing that?
Yeah. First of all, let's just have a quick look at a spreadsheet here. So we've done up a sort of dummy spreadsheet that we'll return to during the course of this presentation. And it's just very rough, and it just shows some sales figures for some salesmen. So you can see the months across the top, salesmen down the side, and the figures they've achieved for each month. Now, a lot of you will know that if you highlight a certain column of figures, down here at the bottom, you'll get the average, you'll get the count, and you'll get the sum. What you probably don't know is that if you right-click on this bar, you can also add in, say, minimum and maximum. And then if you look at that, you can see now at the bottom, you've got the minimum and the maximum for those figures in the column. So it's a quick way of you wanting to get a lot of stats and you not wanting to do a lot of work on them. It'll just highlight them and you'll get those figures up. So I'm going to switch that off for the moment and we'll come back to the next quick tip. So
that's perfect. So what about diagonal borders then? What are they all to do with? How would you go about doing them?
Yeah, you can see quite a neat sample in the right-hand side here. I'll just show you how to do it quickly. It's a way to separate out a cell if you want to put two different headings in the same cell. Often you'll get merging cells, and then that makes it difficult to manipulate. So if you want to keep it just one cell, try using diagonal borders. And most of you will know about borders, but you won't know about diagonal ones. And so it's quite easy. Select the cell you want, go down, right-click, go down to Format Cells, go down to Border, and then this button here is the magic one, and that's the diagonal one. So we put that in, goes there. Haven't really got these lined up properly, but you can see nice, quick diagonal border on there. I'll take that off for the moment, and we'll have a look at the next tip.
So what about transforming the case then? I've seen that you can do things like changing whether it's upper or lower case. How would we go about doing that?
Yeah, the main advantage of this is when you get data in, for instance, if you're merging data and some people are in uppercase or other people are in lowercase, or you've just keyed in stuff and you've not keyed it in. If you're like me, you're not that great at jumping between the upper and the lower keys and you're trying to do it in a hurry. You just want to get it cleaned up afterwards. So it's quite simple. If we take our example here, we can see looking down here, we've got various combinations of upper, lowercase, and proper. So for instance, if I want it proper, which is really uppercase to begin with and then lowercase, I just select the cell that I want to change and put it in. And there we can see, so John Vesco, we've got lowercase v there, uppercase v there. We want to pull that down, copy it down. We can see everyone else coming up. Really nice names now. Look, all quite smart compared to the mess that's along here. So again, if we want to change that to lower, or we want it to change it to capital, so we want to make it important, no problem at all. So I'll just clear that away and we'll move on to the next one.
That's great. Okay, so what about arranging text then from different cells using the ampersand? What would we do about that?
Again, this is just fast way of putting text together, and it's really a very simple thing to do, and it makes it interactive, so it's easier than retyping stuff through. So, for instance, say John Vescu and Olive Wetboot, and we want to do something with their figures down here and want them as a column heading. So if I put in equal John Vescu, and then I put in ampersand, and then Oliver Wetbootham, there we go. Their names are in there, and we can start to maybe manipulate their data down here. We want to do something together with them. The advantage is obviously it's interactive. If we were to change John Vescu's name to uppercase V in that figure there, then you can see it automatically changes in John Vescu down there. So very nice way of just doing everything interactively without a lot of typing and copying. So let's just clear that data away and we'll move on to the next one.
That's great. So what about autocorrect then? Why would we use that, or what's that all about?
Okay, autocorrect is built into Excel, and you will notice various obvious autocorrects that Excel will do for you normally. However, if you're like me and you consistently spell names and words wrong, and you're typing in quickly and you can't be bothered to go back, why not set up some autocorrect features for yourself? So the example here is I have a problem with subtotal. It's uppercase, lowercase, there's a dash, there's a T. I always get it wrong, and my usual abbreviation is subtotal. So I put in subtotal, and I really want subtotal. So the way to make sure that the thing is going to File, Options, Proofing, Autocorrect Options, and then we can create a rule here. So subtotal, and we want to, as you can see, I've got it set up. It replaces it with subtotal. So nice, easy way if you're having problems with typing.
Perfect. And so what about conditional formatting then? When would we need to use that in Excel?
The main reason to do conditional formatting is when you want to sort of highlight stuff in cells without having to dig in deep. Again, the whole point of this webinar is sort of really skimming around and moving fast around Excel without digging in deep and doing lots and lots of work. And so this is a rather nice way of sort of spotting the odd trends. So what you can do is you can say, well, I want to show certain cells when certain conditions apply. So let's go back to our example here. And for instance, and we're looking at the sales here. Say the salesmen have a quota of 1,000 a month. We want to highlight those cells where they've not not achieved 1,000 a month. So we go into conditional formatting off the home page and highlight cell rows less than, and so we put in 1,000. And we've got a choice of colors we can put in, but let's leave it with light red because red's danger here, and we're looking at stuff that's bad. And there we can see straight away those figures start to make a lot more interest. We can see, for instance, that Wendy Tryhard had bad for 3 months, but then is now performing okay. However, Max Davis seems to have started okay and is now going down, so we might want to have a word with Max. And then 3 others have had off months. So really quick way of just basically just showing up data that you want to find out quickly. So we'll just clear that off there at the moment, and we'll move on to the next one.
Okay, so what about transpose of a table using cut and paste then? Where would you use that?
This one's a fabulous one, really. I mean, a number of times, well, you'll get a table where the axes are the wrong way round and you want to get it the other way round. And, for instance, if we look at this table, we've got the salesman down the left-hand side and we've got the months across the top. So say your boss comes to you and says, well, that table's okay, but for my report, I want the months down the left-hand side and I want the salesman down the top. So all we have to do is take that, instead of retyping it all or trying to copy columns and push them and pull them across, is just copy that and then select an area, put it down there, and then we look for the paste option, which is transpose. As you can see, it's highlighted transpose, put that in. Now we look at the table we've put in. We've got the months down the side here, and we've got the salesman running across the top. So I'll just take that back for the moment. Oops.
Perfect. Okay, and what about Sparkline microcharts then? What are they? I've not heard of them ones before.
It's basically a way of putting a graph into one cell. So if you've used graphs in Excel, they take up huge amounts of spreadsheet space. And quite often you'll want just to see a certain trend, and you don't want exact data, to be able to dig down in the chart, but you just want to spot a trend. So again, like conditional formatting and stuff like that, we just want to do things quickly. So let's give an example on this here, right? So we go back to our sales chart and we want to see how the salesmen are doing. So if we take that data there, so we want to see how John Vesco is doing over the course of the year. Is he trending upwards or is he trending downwards? And so we go insert line. So select the data range. We've already selected that, B4 to G4. Choose where you want the spark line to be placed. So we want to place it there next to John Vesco at the end. And we can see John Vesco's sales decreased, but then has increased as the time goes on. We want to copy that down. And we can see the different trends for each of the salesmen there. So Greg Wallace seems to be doing okay. Wendy Tryhard very consistently improving. Oliver Wetbottom, bit of a sticky start. Then we might want to be having a chat with Max Davis because that's just a downward trend. And then the other two similarly starting to look okay. So a great way of just putting in there, because if you want to start putting in graphs in Excel, and I'm sure some of you have had to go over the time, they tend to take up huge amounts of space and often crowd out your sheet. This is a nice way of just putting individual graphs very quickly. So we'll just take that out for the moment and move on quickly to the next one.
So what about the count function versus count A? What are the differences? Why would you use them in Excel?
This really, when you've got mixed text and numeracy, then we really want to count the number of cells. And when you're starting to get into big spreadsheets, and it's quite often to know this and need to know the size of these cells or spreads like that. So I'm going to give you two examples here, and I'll show you the difference between the count A and the count I. So, for instance, we've got two salesmen that aren't actually working at the moment. Maybe they're on maternity leave, paternity leave, maybe they're on holiday or whatever, and so it's not applicable, their sales figures. And if we put those two in here, right now, if we put in a count, so we want to count, and we cover the range. So this is the traditional count. That says 7, so it means we've got it's saying that there's 7 salesmen that have got data in. We want to know the actual number of salesmen that are out on the road. So we put in equal count A and do the data on February. That tells us 9. So it tells us that there's 9 rows there that we need to pay attention to. So just clear that away. Lots of applications there where when you're doing database work that the count A comes in very useful.
That's perfect, that, Colin. So the len function for counting numbers of characters in a cell, what's that for? Why would you use that?
It's really if we're sort of doing various things and we want to know what sort of spaces we should allow for things, right? Again, it comes down to data manipulation, but say, for instance, you're doing a form and you want to know the maximum number of characters to allow in a form. So let's take a look at the lens function in action. So we want to do it on the salesman's name. So we put in equal len and we choose the salesman's name, put it across there, and we can see John Beskett's 10 characters. And we go down, and Oliver Wetbootham is 16 characters. So maybe if we're designing a form, we might want to say, right, the maximum characters we need in that form is 16 characters. If you're trying to count those up by yourself and trying to look down a list, it's often very difficult to do that. So it's just quite a neat way of saving your brain work and just getting the spreadsheet to do the work for you. Yeah.
Perfect. So what about the right, left, mid functions? When would you need to use them in Excel?
This is when you want to extract data out of long strings. So the most obvious example is invoice numbers. You often get invoice numbers these days that have got department places, they've got symbols on there, they've all got all kind of extraneous characters, and all you're really interested in is maybe the 6 digits at the end. So not particularly great example to use this spreadsheet, but what I'll do is I'll show you the right one. So all we want to do is find out the 3 right-hand numbers for all, say, January sales figures. We're not interested in the first bit of numbers. So we put in equals right B4, then put in a condition, specify the number of characters we want to extract, and put that there. So you can see it's just extracted the 345 from the 2345 there. Again, dead easy to copy it down across the whole of them. So we can see that there. As I said, not a great deal of use in this particular example I've got here, but useful when you're doing a lot of database work and you're wanting to cut down on the data that you're carrying over. And you can do it left or you can do it mid, whatever. Yeah.
That's perfect. So the if function, I've obviously seen this myself, but do you want to explain what you need to use this for in Excel for us?
Yeah, the if function is just applying some logic to your things. We've seen some conditional formatting before, but sometimes conditional formatting will not cover all the basis of what you want to do. So if a certain condition is met, I want a certain output. If it's not met, I want a different output. That's so like computer programming, it's the branch. And I'll give you a quick example of that. Let's go back to our salesman. As we said, the sales target for these guys was maybe 1,000 a month. So we're looking at January and want to see which ones get a bonus. So we type in the if function, if B4 is greater than 1,000, then we want to give them a bonus. If it's not, we want to say no bonus. So Yes, I'll close that up. So we run that down now, copy it down. We can see it's gone through and it's said Wendy try hard, didn't achieve 1,000, so no bonus. Olive Whip Bitum did achieve a 2, 3, 4, 5, so she gets a bonus. So very easy way of putting your logic in, a nice, simple, easy way for you to do it.
Perfect. And what about the sum if, count if, or average if? When would you need to use them within Excel?
Yeah, these are taking the if function and then applying on top of that the sum and the count and the average functions. So if we go back to our example, we know we've got our averages, we've got our counts, and we've got our sums down at the bottom. But say, for instance, we're going back to our example and we want to do the bonuses, and we want to know the number of salesmen that are going to get a bonus in January. So we put in equals count if, put in the range, put in the criteria, greater than 1,000. Whoops, dot there. Close it down and put there. And there we can see it's gone through the numbers and it said you've got 5 salesmen that are going to get a bonus that month. So it's really taking simple, rather than having to do a function and produce one result and then do a sum function or a count function. Once that result has been produced, you're combining the two together, really.
That's perfect.
Okay.
And what about filter results? Why would you need to use them?
This is a great way of just sorting tables. So whether you need them for reports, you want to sort things alphabetically or by best, the highest sales or whatever, or you just want to quickly, again, manipulate the data and try and find some trends out there. So by putting filters on, it's very easy then to find what you're looking for. Let's go back to our example and show you how easy it is to put a filter on. So we'll go back to our table and we'll just apply it. So we want to put filters on each of these column headings. Go into data, go into filter, and you can see we've now got these nice little arrows there. And so if we want to sort them A to Z, there it's sorted the names A to Z and it's manipulated the data. Yeah, if we want to, yeah, so I'll just take that back for the moment. For instance, if we wanted to find out in April, who had the highest sales, we can choose sort largest to smallest, and we can see Tracy Tryhard as the top of the list. So a great way of manipulating data. Also, if you're producing tables for reports, it's an excellent way of sorting that out. So take those off, and we'll just take the filters off now for the moment.
Okay, what about Workbook then? What's this about?
Okay, quite often you'll get a spreadsheet where you just got tables after tables after tables, and as you start to scroll around, you'll start to lose yourself in that spreadsheet. Rather than do that, it's much better to have it tabbed. So the ideal thing is here we want to do maybe create another table based on this table, but we don't want to put it in the same spreadsheet. So we click down here at the bottom where it says new sheet, we create a new sheet, and we want to say look at the sales in January and do some data with that. So we go equals, go back to the first sheet, select the area there, and return, and let's just put this up a bit. And as you can see, we've now got January's sales in there for the things, and we can start to manipulate that data. We look at the number in there. You can see in the reference at the top, it's referring back to sheet 1, which is where the original data is. So we will start changing the data. We only need to change it in the master sheet, and it would instantly fall through into the other sheets. And obviously, then you get these tabs down here. You can rename those. So, for instance, we could rename that as Jan. And there we've got Jan. So as you start to get lots of tabs, it's very easy to find them. Put some logical names in. So we'll just delete that sheet. Say I'm bored with it now. I want to get rid of it. Just delete the sheet, and then the data's gone. So useful way, rather than creating lots of different spreadsheets, just keep it all in one workbook, but have lots of different sheets in that workbook.
That's great. And so freeze panes then, when would we need to use them in Excel?
This freeze panes really relates back to the old days where you had very small screens and it was very difficult to keep the column headers in view. But it also still has its uses these days when you're manipulating large amounts of data and you want to keep the column headings. So, say for instance, really you want to keep these in the view of your screen the whole time, but you want to scroll up and down on those. Now, the trick with freeze panes is to actually go below, believe it or not. This is my sort of top tip for today. And if you go into view and you go into freeze panes and you freeze panes there, and if we look now, we can see that the column headings are staying where they are once we manipulate down the data. And right, let me just take that off for the moment. Freeze panes, unfreeze panes, and we're back to normal again.
That's great. And what about Ctrl Shift then? What do you need to use that for?
This is a great way for selecting data. Often you'll get a dump of data out of another system and you want to paste it into, copy it out of Excel. You've got a CSV file or something like that, and it can be large amounts of data. If you start using your mouse, often you'll take your finger off your mouse and you're highlighting. So, for instance, I decide I want to copy this spreadsheet. I'm coming down, and then, and I've clicked off it again. I'm coming down, I've clicked off again. So the easiest way to do is Ctrl Shift, and then if I hit the right arrow button, I go across, and then I hit the down button, I go down. And there you've got the data nicely highlighted. Simple spreadsheet like this, obviously, you're thinking, well, it's dead easy to highlight with a mouse, but imagine you've got millions of rows and you're scrolling down the side. It becomes a bit difficult. So this is a great way of just getting your data into format, and then you can start to manipulate it. Yeah.
That's great. And autofill, when would we need to use autofill?
It's just a great way of avoiding repetitive typing. So, for instance, you're starting off a spreadsheet and you want to put the column headers in and some logic to them, say they're all months or things like that. Give you an example here. If you look at our months here, they've been just typed in very roughly. Some are uppercase, some are lowercases. And if we look up here, there are actually just typing. For instance, I want to get them into a date format that's proper. So I put in Jan.22 and immediately it becomes a date format, goes to the right-hand side, looks a lot neater. Next column, I put in Feb.22. Now I'm going to have to do this the whole way across, but if we say now highlight those two and then just pick out the hair and copy it across, you can notice that what it's done, the Excel's picked up on the logic of that and it's copied all those columns across. And you can see now that it's all neatly formatted. It's in date format and it looks a lot better basically. So I'll just undo that for the moment in this example. Next one, text to columns.
Yeah. Do you want to just explain what text to columns is and why we use it?
Yeah, again, often you'll import data and you'll want to split that data up. Now, we've seen the right, mid, and the left and stuff like that. And that's a way of taking the specific bit of data out. But say we want to keep both bits and we want the data, but we want to split it into different columns. So it might be months, days, hours, or something like that. Or it might be the most common one is things like names. So you'll often get data where it's you've got the surname and the first name all in the same column, and you're wanting to use maybe mail merge or something, and you're wanting to say Dear Tom, but if you're using that column as the mail merge, the only thing it'll pick up is Brady Tom, so it'll come out as Dear Brady Tom. So what you want to do is split that out. So let's go back to our example, and we'll do it on here. Big trick on text to columns is to actually have a spare column next to it to put in. So we'll just insert a column here, and right, we're going to take those figures there and we want to split them out into first name and surname. And go into data, use the text to columns button, delimited. We're using the space as the delimiter, so you can, sometimes it's colons. A lot of you who use CSVs will know that commas are in CSVs, but the space is the colon, and we can see the data preview. It started to split it up there. So we go next. We can then go finish, and you look there. We've got it now. The data nicely split up into two columns, and we can then use the John, for instance, in a letter we're sending to him or something like that. Yeah. So anyway, I think Martin, do you want to sign off for us?
Yeah, I'm just going to see if we've got any questions. There might be some that maybe I can answer as well. Just have a quick look if there is anything there. Let's just have a quick look. We do have a couple that have come in. One of them I'll be able to answer. So it's one of them is David from Manchester said, what Office 365 packages include Excel? So I'll answer that one. So basically, if you're going to be purchasing Office 365 and you want the installed version, it's business standard and higher. If you just want to use the online version, then you'd need business basic. But obviously that doesn't come with an installed copy of Outlook. You'd need the standard plan upwards to get that basically. And the other one we have is what's the pivot table and when would you use it? Colin, do you want to answer that one, or do you?
Yeah, okay. Pivot tables are really ways of manipulating huge amounts of data. Let's see if I can do a quick pivot table here in the allocated time. So they're fabulous things, pivot tables, and it's a way of really plumbing into your data that we haven't touched on in this seminar, but I may do a webinar in the future on pivot tables as a whole. But to just give you an example, we highlight the data we want, we insert pivot table, and let's put it in a new worksheet. So we remember we spoke about tabs at the bottom, so we'll put it into a new worksheet here, and we've got there a pivot table there, and we've got person, month, January. It's more tables, so we can put in a filter person, month. So we want there, and then we want to say put in the let's take January, and we'll take June, for instance, in there. Columns, right. Let's put them into values, sorry. So we can see, for instance, that in, let's swap it around so it's a bit more logical. So for instance, we've got the totals there. So for January, the sales team as a whole did 11,000. For June, they did 18,000. It's already summed us, but we want to know what one individual salesperson does and put that in as a filter. So let's see what Greg wants to do. Put that in as Greg. In January, he did 1543. In June, he did 22345. So that's very beginning idea of how to do a pivot table. They do require a bit of practice, pivot tables. They do require a bit of work. As I said, I might do a webinar on pivot tables in the future on how to get started, but they are very, very powerful ways of manipulating data in Excel.
No, thanks for that, Colin. That's great. Okay, so just want to thank everyone for watching today. I want to personally thank Colin for doing the webinar for us today. If you need to get hold of us to discuss any sales options such as purchasing Office 365, or if you're an existing customer that want to add on certain products for your existing plan, then please call our sales team on 01925 818 448. For any support issues or any questions you have about the products that you might need more of a technical answer for, then please call our support team on 01925 818 252. The website is simplymailsolutions.com, which you can access your online account there, as well as the knowledge base that does contain all guides and some further support documentation that you may want to refer to. Please follow us on socials. We do update these regularly with future webinars and also product information, things like that. And our webinar on YouTube channel can be got at simplymailsolutions.com/webinars, where you'll see past webinars, and you'll also be able to register interest in the next one that we do. So once again, I'd like to thank Colin for doing today's webinar. Thanks for everything, and hope to see you all again soon.